Hello, welcome to Humanity at the Holocaust Museum and Tolerance Center in Glen Cove. A very special occasion of walking in, becoming very sober, and seeing where we've come from and where we're going to take humanity in art and why that matters. This podcast focus is on art through humanity, but it's art, religion, and Western thought. I have the most incredible intellectual property attorney to introduce you. Her company is Intellectual Law Practice, and she's Betty Tufariello. She is born in Athens, Greece.
No, in Montreal.
Okay, Montreal, but has roots to Athens, Greece.
My parents are both Greek.
I'm pairing this because I'm a visual thinker. It's all about art, and how I see art, religion, and Western thought is the most perfect painting, the art from Athens. She represents women. She has a real love of music and people, and she protects the creative human spirit. We very rarely have a chance to talk about that, so I'd like to introduce Betty.
Thank you for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it. Like you said, my full name is Panagiota Betty Tufariello. I am a patent, trademark, and copyright attorney. My law firm is called Intellectual Law, the law offices of B.B. Tufariello. We're located on Long Island, New York, and we do patents, trademarks, and copyrights. As a result of being an intellectual property attorney, I have leveraged that, and I've entered the world of art only because I feel it is art, and specifically music, the world of music. It is the single most prominent unifier of humanity. It makes us human. It allows the expression of humanity by the artists who perform it, and it elicits humanity to the audience, to the people that actually hear it. So, name of the podcast is Humanity Through Art, right? And art is exactly that. It allows people to be creative, one of the most important characteristics of humanity, and it brings out the humanity of people.
And you're a wordsmith. On top of this, you don't use AI, you really go deep into yourself and use law to really come up with incredible pairing of words and thoughts.
Well, I appreciate that because I really don't consider myself a wordsmith. I actually don't even consider myself an artist, to say the least. But I appreciate that.
I think that's the problem. And that's part of the reason I believe in this podcast. I can tell you, as an art professor, working with college-age students, everyone says, "Oh, professor, I really can't draw that well." But how come Picasso says everyone is born an artist and we undo it and think we can't be creative? Your background as a chemist, you're a true Renaissance woman. I believe we're coming into the second Renaissance. And you have 3 daughters.
I do.
Very progressive, artistic.
I do, yes.
And you're behind women in their creative thought.
It's very interesting because, I just move. I just get things done. I don't really perceive myself how you're describing me. So
I see it.
I have to tell you, it kind of makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
But no, it's important. That's how we grow. However, you are absolutely correct.
Oh, thank you.
I do support women. I work with women. I prefer working with women. I feel if there's one thing I have learned as a result of being both a scientist and an attorney,
and chemist.
A chemist, yes, a chemist, is the importance of supporting women and pushing women out. At one point, a few years ago, someone had said to me, Betty, maybe you'll get even more successful as a lawyer if the face of your firm is a man. And I had just brought my daughter in as my groomed-to-be partner. She's still very young. And I said, what do you think? And she actually said to me, Mom, don't underestimate what you have done. You have opened doors and you have set examples. And maybe you're not a multimillionaire, but that's not what's important. What's important here is that you're teaching us a lesson, us women, young women, teaching us a lesson on what it means to be a woman and what it means to achieving your objectives and realizing your fullest potential.
I love what you say because I believe my students and the audience need to understand something very crucial. We should not monetize every decision we make. We should go from the intuition, from the heart, because even you said that your husband was able to see in you to do something in Laura. It was nothing that you could see, but you began to consider it when you go back to your initial love of dissection.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I was not groomed to be an attorney. I was groomed to be a doctor. I actually took the entrance examinations at the University of Athens and did get into medical school.
Athens, so I'm right.
Yes,
you
you're
do come
absolutely
from Athens.
right.
You come from the School of Athens in medicine. You are a medical. Could have been student.
I could have been a medicine student, yes, absolutely. But you are right. I actually lived 4 years in Athens from 1973 to 1977. I attended public school in Athens. So my entire high school, junior high school education is primarily grounded in Greek and the Greek educational system. At that time, it was very different from what it is today. As a result of that, I studied ancient Greek, I studied religion, I studied a lot of the things that today many young men and women don't, which I think is a loss. I really do. And as a result of that, as well as my continued education on my own of reading books in English, because I always had the intention of coming back to the United States, it really expanded and pushed me out. But I never thought I'd be a lawyer. It wasn't until well after I was married, after I had been a director of chemistry at Allergan Pharmaceuticals. We were part of the the contact lens division. You're right. I did share that with you. It was my husband's idea that I should go to law school.
You're saying something else that's a treasure trove, because you're saying that when you had your education in Athens, it was not like what it is now, where there's some of the classical values that go back to Aristotle and Plato that somehow they put into your education.
I did not have the good fortune to study Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle while I was in Greece, because the way the education system was, it started with Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey. And in studying ancient Greek, that's where you start, because they actually, at that time, the educational system was actually putting you through the evolution of the Greek language, because it started, just like every language in the world, it evolves over time. Sometimes it gets simpler, sometimes it might get more complex, but in this case, it actually gets simpler. So when you study ancient Greek at the time of Homer, it's a lot more complicated, a lot more difficult to understand. But with time, they move you through the works. Homer was, if memory serves me correctly, about 1200, 1300 BC. Then you move into the classical period of Greece, which is 480, 440, 430. The Persian Wars have been won. You have the golden age of Athens. You have the philosophers, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. You have the evolution of thought. Then you have the Roman Empire. During the entire period of time, the Greek language evolved, and it evolved tremendously until we get to the Roman Empire, the birth of Jesus, where at that point, the entire world was speaking Greek, and they were speaking koine. That's how it's pronounced in English. In Greek, it's kini, and it's what people call the Hellenistic Greek. Some people refer to it that way. It's also the language of the New Testament. So
beautiful.
Yes.
It's got everything.
It's got everything. The New Testament actually has 4 books, 4 Gospels. One of them, the Gospel according to Mark, was written in Aramaic, which was the language of the Jews at the time. And the Gospel of Luke and John and Mark were written in Greek, because those were the two languages that they were looking to expand into.
Well, what would you say is the most common thread for all of these civilizations that we could take away for today, the wisdom of yesterday? Because I do believe we're into the second Renaissance. I had a professor that always said every 100 years we have a new Renaissance. It seems it's got to be now. So, and you coming from the background, science, chemistry, music, law, order, what is something that you have been educated with that perhaps could be something inspirational that people should know to uplift their own creativity and have faith in it? And maybe I could say it in another way as you're thinking. You have many clients that had to follow the passion in them to discover and become well-known. They never went into it thinking, again, going back to your brilliant issue of not monetizing a decision, a very good way of character, then how do you take that to know, to give someone help as an attorney, an intellectual, and not to hide, to do it and to be protected, to come to you and to protect their creativity? You're an amazing person to do that, and a woman.
That question is, whew,
I have to stay within our allotted time, and you're so special. I want to get it all in.
I really can't answer it in 25 minutes or less. It's because that's a loaded question, and I think that
But you're a storyteller. You're and a wordsmith.
Different times call for different things, right? I don't know. I have to think about it, and I have to think about it within the context of my own life, because I've noticed that at different times I lean on different things. But I have found that my knowledge, for example, of the Old Testament, the New Testament, a lot of what I studied in Greece, a lot of the philosophy, the history, the examples. It's kind of hard to summarize it in 5 words or less, but I think I'm going to lean on Job.
Oh, I like that.
And the reason I'm going to lean on Job is because I remember during a particularly trying time, I came to the conclusion that Job provided no concrete answers, but it provided a lot of comfort that the issues we face today as mankind, as humankind, were the same issues that were faced, that were experienced by mankind, by humankind, back at the time of Job.
It's a great connect.
Yes.
It's a very good one.
Yes, and
Betty.
it was very comforting, extremely comforting. And when you look at history, and if you are an observer of humankind in today's world, you're seeing that we are much, much more similar as members of humankind society in the world than we are different.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for how much we really are the same, and I think we're all...
It's scary how similar it is. And if people took the time to actually understand that, I think we would be a lot more inclined to sit down and talk about our issues as opposed to fight about our issues.
So I would like you to give the students here some inspiration. The people, the listeners. And I would like you to help them, because I find that my students, that most people always say, I'm not that creative, and they have to be pushed. And when they're pushed, they realize there's something that they're in love with, and they want to make it come alive. Is there anything you could tell the young creative people coming up into this world of perhaps how they can capture their creativity and not look away from it, not abandon it? How do you stay with it?
So the term creativity is a very broad term. And because it's broad, it's also vague, extremely vague. And what you consider creative, I don't. And what somebody else considers creativity, we may disagree with, right? So the term creativity is so broad that I don't think it really is conducive in supporting and encouraging people.
Okay.
I prefer the idea that if you get something in your head that you're really driven to do, whatever it is.
Intellectual property.
Well, yes, okay.
That's your brushstroke.
That really is.
That really is your brushstroke.
That really is.
Intellectual property.
Because if you,
there you go.
I deal with the concrete. I don't like dealing with vagueness, because when you're vague and you really can't act on being vague. But if you have an objective and this is where I want to hit, this is my goal, this is where I want to go, whatever that goal is, then go for it.
So you're saying something interesting, because there's a book that I use when I'm teaching drawing. It's called Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain. And I tell my students, tell the left side of the brain to step outside. Just go away, leave me alone. Mm-hmm. So what it is here, the creativity of the left brain, that is the side of the brain, scientific, that loves a checklist, right? They want to know, okay, what are we going to talk about? What are my bullets? What are my points?
That's me.
Okay, so we have artists who are left-brained. They're just different artists. Help them. What do they need to do to stay in their their intellectual left side of the brain? Because that's not easy for me. That would be, I would need help with that.
So I have found both from personal experience and from mentoring my daughter, who's a musician, and I have zero music experience. I don't play an instrument. I did sing at one point. I still sing in my church choir. But the reality is this. If I get into my head to do something, especially something that I don't know anything about, the very first thing I do, because of that bullet,
right,
that part of my brain that needs objectives and bullet points and whatnot, I learn as much as I can. And I identify people that I would consider successful doing that very thing that I want to do.
Very good.
And I look at it and I say, okay, what did this person do to get where they went? How did they do it? And I learn from it. And I combine my knowledge about the subject matter with my knowledge of this successful path that somebody else found.
What you're saying is you're looking for a hero, a role
model. A mentor.
A mentor, a hero.
Mentor. Mentoring is so important.
So if we don't give our students a mentor, an example of someone, I call it a hero. I'm looking for artists or architects that could be heroic, that they could look at. You say a mentor.
A hero can be a mentor. To me, a hero is, like you said, I'm a wordsmith, right? So in my mind, words have very, very specific meanings. So a hero can be a mentor. We see in sports this happening a lot. If a young woman wants to be a soccer player, she's going to go out and identify those women athletes who play soccer. Right. How did they do it? How did they? And many times they reach out to them. And a lot of these women actually have act as mentors to younger athletes.
Wonderful.
So mentors are very, very important. I got mentored. I was very lucky. My mentor was an old Jewish man, Murray Schaefer, Moishi. I loved him. And, he guided me. He took me under his wing. I was a young attorney, Greek, coming out of parents who were farmers and shepherds on the mountains of Greece. And here I am all of a sudden, and I'm an attorney, and I don't even know which way to turn. If I hadn't had my partner, Murray Schaefer, guide me, and talk to me and encourage me and tell me not to back off and to be there for me and to point out my errors, my successes, I would not have been able to grow as quickly as I did. So mentoring is very, very important.
Tell me, how are you influenced and involved in the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance?
As I've told you in past conversations, I'm the mom of a musician. Michaela Tufariello, my daughter, she is a double bassist. She just wrapped up her undergraduate studies at Juilliard. She studies under Tim Cobb, who is the chairman of the department at Juilliard, and he's also the principal bassist at the New York Philharmonic. Miki right now, Michaela goes by the short name Miki. Miki right now is studying her master's. At one point, she did a master class at Goldstein's, a fantastic shop run by Barry Goldstein. She did a master class with Michael Klinghoffer. Michael Klinghoffer is the president and dean of the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance, a fantastic conservatory school in Jerusalem, which is almost 100 years old. I think it was sometime in the late 1800s when it was actually created.
And you're very concerned. Since the war, they have not been funded, and the explained. The story is so beautiful.
So the story goes like this. Miki actually did the master class with Michael. I fell in love with Michael on the spot. Just a fantastic individual, kind, very, very perceptive, very observant. Michaela was actually suffering from tendinitis during the master class. We had not told him. She had prepared a couple of pieces. She played well. He had a lot of constructive criticism. And right at the end, he turns around and he says to her, "Does your arm hurt?" And my daughter and I, we both looked at each other, absolutely shocked.
And on a Zoom, no?
That this was personal. Okay. This was live. We, master classes face to face. Other people are there. It happened. It actually took place at Goldstein's, a music organization, which was in Manhattan. Anyway, he turns around and he says, "Are you in pain?" And that's when I resolved that Michaela had to study with Michael. Problem is that Michael is in Jerusalem, in Israel, and Miki is on Long Island. So we did it via Zoom. And I wanted to pay Michael for the value that he gave in my daughter's education during that summer program, because it was 5-6 weeks over the summer, once a week, sometimes twice a week. And Michael refused to take money, just absolutely refused. He took such joy of working with Michaela. Incidentally, Michael Klinghoffer is also a double bassist. He has studied under Gary Carr, who we lost, unfortunately, just a fantastic instructor as well. And so Michael turns around and says, "Well, how much are you going to pay me?" I said, "Well, you're not telling me your hourly rate, so I'm going to go by what I already pay. So for the time, I've set aside $750 to give you. I'm ready to send it to you." He said, "Listen, Betty, I don't need that money right now. Just put it on the side somewhere. Just make me a promise that when I call you and I ask for it, you will send it to me." No problem. So the year went through, and of course, on October 7th, we had the attack on Israel. And 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Michael. And he says to me, "That $750 that you were prepared to give me, can you send it to us? I want you to send it to the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance." And I said, "Of course I will, but why?" And then he explained to me that a lot of the students, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level, he has many students that were sent to the front as soldiers.
Amazing.
And he was very concerned that because the Israeli government was channeling money, diverting money from the school to support the military efforts, he was really concerned that he wouldn't have enough funds to continue the scholarship program that funded many of these students' education, especially once they come back from the war. And I asked him, I said, how much money do you need? Oh, never mind. He didn't want to tell me because he knew that once he told me, it would become an issue for me. So he wasn't wrong. So we continued to talk a little bit, and then I indirectly kind of directed the conversation I brought it back, and I said, tell me, how many kids are on scholarship? He goes, about 60. How many of them are graduates? How many are undergraduates? So, during the conversation, I started getting information, and how much is their education? And once he told me what the annual tuition was for each student, I'm like, Michael, for heaven's sake, you need anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000 for 1 year just to take care of these students. What in heaven's name is my $750 going to do? It's not even a drop in the bucket. He goes, don't worry about it. It's okay. No, it's not okay. I got to figure something out. And we hung up. Through a series of events.
Your creation.
Well, I couldn't sleep. It was bothering me. And the reason it was bothering me is because one thing I have learned as the mother of a musicians, artists in general, and musicians in particular, really need advocates.
Yes.
They cannot advocate for themselves, not because they're stupid or unintelligent or, they just don't have the time. They don't have the time to do the necessary research. They don't have the time. They're constantly practicing. My daughter, when she's at full force, she's working, she's playing and practicing her bass 6 to 8 hours a day. When are you going to find out about scholarship money or sponsorship opportunities or you just can't. It's physically impossible. Somebody has to pick up the flag and run with it to help them and support them. Now, when you add to the mix young students who have fought in a war to defend their country, who have picked up a shotgun or a machine gun or have dropped bombs on people, and then the war's over, and then they come back, and if society around them expects them to be normalized, how are they going to do that? Exactly. How are they going to go from taking a machine gun, putting down a machine gun, and picking up a violin? It just doesn't happen. And what's worse is if it doesn't happen because they don't have money, that's an outright sin. That, to me, is a disgrace. And I called Michael back and I said, listen, I've been thinking about this. Your students need an advocate. They need someone who's going to make it a point to raise the money necessary to get them back and to normalize their lives.
How are we doing on that?
We're doing actually pretty well because once I got it into my head, yes, I do.
More.
Yes.
So ask.
Yes, we do.
Reach out to our viewers here.
Well, a lot has happened since, I picked up the flag and started running with it. We did actually have one concert on Long Island last May of 2024. And it was the Long Island Concert Orchestra. It was conducted by Enrico Fagone, who is, by the way, one of the only Italian conductors to have received a Grammy Award, not receive it, but nominated for a Grammy Award. And we raised $25,000 during that concert. And now we're having new ones coming in, and we need sponsors. We really need sponsors.
Where can people reach out?
They can reach out directly to me or to the Friends of Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance, because since the concert, we have put together the Committee of Friends for JMD. We are looking for sponsors. There's going to be 2 concerts. One's coming up in Jerusalem on December 22nd. The next one's going to be here on Long Island in March at Malloy College. And the reality is we do need sponsors.
Anything you'd like to say about your practice and what you're passionate about?
I practice patent law, trademark law, copyright law, because it really brings me in contact with the best part of the law, which is protecting creative people. And it's in my opinion, one of the most positive areas of the law. Most people think, oh, you're a lawyer. Oh my God, criminal law or family law, or we're dealing with divorce, or, it's always a problem. With intellectual property law, yes, there are problems, and yes, there are disputes, and yes, there's litigation because, oh, you stole my intellectual property, give it back to me. But the reality is that to get to that point, you have to become creative. You have to create intellectual property, whether it's an invention, whether it's a trademark, some symbol, something that you're using in connection with your business, so that people actually distinguish you compared to everybody else. Whether it's a book, whether it's poetry, whether it's a play, whether it's a new song, whether it's new music, all of that involves the creative side of mankind, and so that's what I do. And if you do get an idea, don't back off, people.
Don't back off.
Do it.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you for watching Humanity Matters Through Art. Ranelle Wolf, thank you so much for coming. If anyone needs help, she is just a warm, engaging, and brilliant woman. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Betty, for coming.